How do you make the Monday everythings of life? How do you take them and make them special or fun? As somebody who deals in that arena of life, I do have some experience in it. But the first thing I want to say is that we, as a society at whole, are largely addicted to dopamine and that high that comes from those social connections or a notification or screens, and sometimes things that are bad that are on screens. But to go from those highs and then to put the screen away or to stop talking to your friend or whatever it is and then go to work, there is a dopamine drop. And I liken it to marijuana, where the first time you have marijuana, you're high, but then when you come down from it, you're just a little bit lower than normal, and then so you need to have a greater high, and then you come down a little bit lower than normal. And what it does is that it causes these nerve endings in your brain to be calmer, and so louder noises are calmer, and irritants are calmer. And then when you come back to just normal everyday life, it seems loud and obnoxious and annoying, and you just want to get away and go back to that happy place. So we can't ignore the fact that dopamine has affected our everyday life. So that's the first thing, is that when you get into the mundane and you feel like it's really low, acknowledge, well, it might not actually just be really low. It actually might be a good thing. I'm just coming off of a high and feeling lower than what I need to be. So be aware of what is affecting your moods and your happiness. Second, your focus and your motivation is what takes, like, say for instance, you see a lot of memes that say, how was I to know that the hardest thing in all of life would be the fact that I have to make dinner every single night? And sometimes when you're trying to eat healthy, you're making from scratch breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then having healthy snacks. And one of the things that helped me going from feeling like this is a necessity, like that it wasn't necessarily great, it could be a drudgery, to more like a privilege, to where I was happier about it, is that I find things that I love. Like, I really like cutting fresh vegetables, because to me that is just the height of nourishment is those vegetables. But I was watching on Instagram, there was this personal chef, and she's like well known and well sought after and has a lot of followers on her Instagram. And what she did was that she would meal prep for several wealthy families in Manhattan. And she was showing her process of how she did that. And then I saw in the comments below, somebody was like, wait, I do that every single night. And I thought, I do that every single night, except for I think that the foods that I make are better than the foods that she's making. So it's that perspective and your focus that, I could be hired by wealthy families in Manhattan to be a personal chef, and I'm that good. But I wasn't first that good, because I remember burning macaroni and cheese water because I got distracted and the water boiled all the way down. So you learn and grow. And that's what the next thing is, that are you invested in what you're doing and what service that you're doing? Because if you just do what you can to get by, that's boring. But if you're continually growing and learning and adapting and being invested in it, then the challenge and overcoming that challenge and being like, oh, check, I learned that, move on to the next thing, that in itself is fun and exciting, that you're accomplishing, and you'll get a dopamine high from checking it off the list. Or your meal prep, that, mark that one off, that one didn't work, let's add this new thing, and how can I learn that? So if your focus is different, it makes the mundane more exciting. And then you have to look and say, does it please you? Does it please yourself that you are pleasing God by being spectacular or being invested or increasing your talents? Maybe you feel like you don't have any talents in working within the household arena, but you can learn. There are books on everything. And if you invest in that and you grow your talents, and then you can teach that to other people, who knows how that can be used or how it will benefit as you serve others. So does it please you that you are pleasing God by being spectacular or invested in increasing your ability and what God has told you to do? Because we are all given a role in life, and so if you resent that role, it's never going to feel special. Number 3, gratitude. Speaking of resentment versus gratitude, work is repetitive, and it all by its nature becomes mundane, because once you've gone through what it takes to get into that element of work or that skill set, you're probably going to be doing that for 40 years. And it will just all by itself become mundane. But if you choose to focus on what is good about it, then it will renew that joy. It will cause you to rejoice. So I often will sit and think, boy, I'm so thankful that I get to do this versus something else that I see that might be more distasteful. I try not to look at the thing that might be more exciting, because comparing can just be a detriment. But I do try to be thankful for all of the opportunities and the things about it. The fact that I am my own manager and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, as long as it's within the guidelines of my husband and the Lord. But my husband gives me a lot of liberty. Number 4, finish the harder. This is just a practical thing within your day. Do those harder things first so that you can invest in a creative outlet. For instance, I said in another video about time management that I write out our list and then we don't get to play until that work is done. And for me, my play is a creative outlet, whether it's creating music or talking to you guys. I love talking to you all. But creativity doesn't always have to be money making. You see a lot of people, oh, this is my creative outlet, and they're making so much money. They're like, oh, and look at my brand new 4,000 square foot house. But a lot of time, God gives us creativity for sheer joy and for sheer pleasure. But you'll have the starving artist who wants to make money doing it. But often it's just a service to others, or it can be used in the ministries as a service for joy and beauty in the lives of yourself and others. And there's a creative element just within creating, but also to share it is fun and exciting. So do your hard work and then have a creative outlet. My pastor always says that pastors need to have something that embodies masculinity outside of the ministry, because if something ever happens to the ministry, then they feel like, well, who am I? What is my identity? And I feel like it's also the same for women. You need to have a something besides just your work. Sometimes you don't always have the time for it, but it's good to have an identity outside just the mundane. Number 5, so this is just the conclusion of being balanced. So all of these things are important. It's not just one of them. So you have to be invested in the everyday areas of work to please God and grow in that skill, grow your talents, and then share your talents and help them increase in their talents. Be grateful, have something different to break up the routine. You know, that just how our mind works, that it's not like that reading is restful or that being on a computer is restful or exercise is restful. It's just something that's different than what we've been working in all day that causes our body to be able to relax. And be aware of if your mood is dropping because you're dependent upon dopamine and screens or social connections or whatever. So either wean yourself from that addiction or just be able to manage your mindset.